Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate you having me.
Okay, Dennis, can you share with us first? I'd like to take my guests and my listeners a trip down memory lane. What was it like growing up as a Dennis J. Henson?
My early life was not a lot of fun. My father was a disabled veteran, so we lived on a veteran's pension and we didn't have very much money. We lived way out in the country, and I was an only child. So I was lonely most of the time. I was dyslexic and hypertensive, so I hated school. My early life was not really great. When I got into high school, I joined the band, and that was fun. I enjoyed being in the band. I enjoyed the trips. I enjoyed the marching and the shows and the concerts and so forth. And I learned to play the drums. So that made life a lot more interesting. So that's really when things started to turn around for me when I was in high school and became a drummer.
All right. Okay. I was waiting if there's like a I was waiting for the other shoes to drop. Like, do you have any other interesting story? Like what made okay, I'm trying to put two and two together here. Grew growing up you were kind of bored because you were the only child in the family. And
Yes,
was it why you turned to reading? Did that spark your love of reading?
not really. When I was in the ninth grade, my teacher called my mother to come to the school. So over the intercom, there came this big announcement. Dennis Henson come to the office, and that was usually not a good thing. You got called to the
Detention.
and everybody in the school heard it. It was embarrassing.
Welcome to your Wordless Podcast, the space where we redefine success, self worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now, let's dive in.
And so we met with my homeroom teacher, my mother, and the teacher said, Dennis is failing the ninth grade. He doesn't take his books home. He doesn't study. He doesn't do his homework. And if he fails the ninth grade, he probably won't finish high school. So my mother said, well, we'll fix that. So from that point on, I took my books home and I did enough to pass. So I actually worked hard enough to get past the ninth grade, but I still hated school and my grades were still terrible. So one day over the intercom, there was an announcement that said, we're going to have an assembly in the gym. And I thought, that's great. No class, get to go to the gym. I don't care what it is. So it was a college band. And I thought, oh, okay, I like band, and they played their spring concert, and I thought that's very interesting. It's better than class. Then at the end, the band director turned around and said, "We brought a little treat for you. We brought our marching drum section, and they're going to put on a show, an exhibition." I thought, that's right. I want to see this because I like the drums. Oh my Nick, they went out there and they just put on a show. It was amazing. Things they were doing was just amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. I thought, oh my goodness. So I thought, I've got to be a part of that. So I went to my band director and said, how do I get to be in that drum section? And he looked at me really strange. I remember this very clearly. And he said, to be in that drum section, you have to go to college. And they're not going to let you in college with your grades. And I said, well, if I change my grades, will I be able to go to college and be in that drum section? And he says, well, I can tell you this, if you don't, you never will. So Nick, I started studying. I started taking books home. I started reading. I started doing my homework. And all of a sudden, school was not something that I dreaded. It was something that I needed. I had to make good grades. I had to do whatever was necessary in order to get into that drum section. So I brought my grades from D's and F's up to A's and B's. And by the time the my senior year, when it was time to try to get into college, I had gotten close enough so that if I passed a certain test, it was called the ACT test, that they would accept me. So to make a long story short, I took the test and I passed it, and I went to Jacksonville State University, and I became a member of their drum section. And
You did it.
in a few years, I became the section leader of that drum section. So that's how I got my start in actually knowing that if you want something really bad, that you need to really work hard to get there. And most of the time, that's going to involve reading just about whatever you want to do. Now, in this modern day where we have YouTube and all kinds of things,
Ebook.
you can listen, and I'm dyslexic, so I listen more than I read, but I still read. I still read a lot. But the daily reading, when you're using it to get to where you want to be, it's a really great tool. So that's kind of how the reading started. Years later, I became a band director and had a successful high school band. And because of that, a large company in Tennessee called me up and said, "We want you to interview." And so I went and interviewed, and they hired me to come there. They gave me 3 books when I took the position. They gave me Think and Grow Rich, Success, the Glenn Bland Method, and The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. So, Nick, after I read those books, I was a different person. I'd never been introduced to self-help books, or I didn't know what motivational material was. I didn't know anything about it. But when I read those, it struck a chord in me. I was really motivated and euphoric. So I thought, I want to read more books like this. Well, this was in 1975, and in 75, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Google. So if you wanted to learn anything, you literally had to either talk with somebody in person or get them on the phone and say, you're really successful. What kind of books have you read that's helped you reach your success? So I started gathering success books, but they all were not like those first 3. Some were good, some were bad, and some were great. So I listed the ones that were great. I kept a journal. And if I read a book that really motivated me, I thought, well, maybe someday I'll come back and read this one again. So I kept a journal. Now, this started in 1975, but that's 50 years ago. And I've been doing that for 50 years. So you know, if you brought someone in and say, I want you to read for the next 50 years and just take the very best books, the ones that are going to motivate you the most, how much would that cost? You'd have to pay them a lot of money to do that. But I have done it, and I've put that list of books in my new book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration. It's a list in the back of the book. Uh, that's really when the reading part got started, when I started in business.
So, okay, in the introduction, you went into real estate. So, how did that play out? How did that tie with the reading? Are you stuck in a job that you don't love, feeling like you're meant for more? It is not in your head, it is in your soul. I am Nick Nieras, and I help high achievers like you break free from burnout, rewire self-doubt, and build a life aligned with purpose through coaching, hypnotherapy, and soul activation. Because let's face it, real wealth isn't just about money, it is about a aligned and happy heart, mind, and soul. Now, remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Let's transform your life together. Visit www.thenicknieras.holisticlifestyle.com to begin.
That's how I learned to do real estate. The reason I went into real estate was I used to watch late night TV. And I would see Girls and Sheets come on and some other real estate gurus, and they would talk about how much money you could make and how easy it was. And I always thought, boy, that would be wonderful. I would love to do that. When I first got out of college and became a band director, the high school that hired me said, we'll give you a place to live if you'll come here. And I thought, well, that's great. They give me a home so I don't have to pay rent or, pay a mortgage. So when I got there, the principal said, well, the board met and they're not going to pay for your house, but we'll give you a
Hello.
lot. So they gave me a lot next to the school ground where I could put a mobile home. And so I purchased a mobile home. And the mobile home the lot was on Railroad Street. And I couldn't wait to get in. Nice mobile home, moved in. I thought, all right, I can sleep late because school is right there. I can walk to the school. And so the next morning at 3 a.m., I found out why the street was called Railroad Street.
Oh,
Within 10 feet of the mobile home. I mean, it shook it. It was
oh
just
my
shaking,
gosh.
knocked me out of the bed, and they blew the whistle. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's a hurricane. This is not going to work. So I went out and bought a house, and I rented out the mobile home. So a family came by and gave me a $300 check, and they moved in, and the check bounced,
Mm.
and I never saw them again, ever. I never saw them again. And they lived in there for a year. I didn't know how to get them out. I didn't know anything about managing real estate. So that was my start in real estate. And I
Wait, so they
remember that.
paid you once and then the
And it,
check bounced and then you let them stay for a year.
well,
Wow.
I didn't know how to
What
get.
an
Well, I wasn't trying to be nice, but I was busy trying to get that band, started.
right. Right.
So, no, well, I'm never going to do that again, which is kind of funny because I mean, that was in 1970, I think, or 71. So here it is 54 years later, and that's pretty much all I do is, is real estate. But it wasn't a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, I started buying a home and then a duplex and then some multifamily. I bought a bunch of homes. And then in the late 80s, and I moved to Texas, there was a lot of real estate. So I started really investing in real estate when I moved to Texas.
Mm.
And I wanted to become a better real estate investor. So I was reading and listening and doing it as much as I could, but I wanted to go to real estate groups. There wasn't a real estate group in Arlington. The closest real estate group there was one in Dallas or several in Dallas, and there was some in Fort Worth, but it was an hour drive. And if there was traffic, which there is in Dallas Fort Worth, sometimes it took an hour and a half to get there. And then once it was over, it was late, and I had to drive back home. And I thought there needs to be a meeting in Arlington. So I started the AREA, the real estate group in Arlington, and people came from Dallas and Fort Worth and Arlington. It was a very successful group. It was big, and I ran that group for 15 years. I decided, well, best way to learn is to teach. So I started teaching classes, and I taught advanced classes on short sales subject to all kinds of real estate advanced stuff. So one day, one of the members came up and said, Dennis, I want you to mentor me. I'll pay you. I want you to take me on as your personal student. And I said, well, Mike, I don't have time. I'm running my real estate. I'm doing this meeting. I'm teaching these classes. I really don't have time to take you on as a student. He said, well, let's go out to eat and we'll talk about it. So I told my wife, her name's Norma, I said, Norma, I'm not going to teach Mike. I don't have time to teach him. So we went out to eat. And after we ate, he had on a coat like this. And he reached in his pocket, pulled out the checkbook, handed it to me and said, fill this out. And I said, do you mean the amount? And he said, yes. So
Wow. Name your
I put an
price.
amount on there that no one in their right mind was going to pay. I thought this will settle this. So he took the checkbook, took the check out, signed it, and handed it back to me and never looked at the amount. He didn't care what the amount was. And so that's
Wow.
when I started students. I started taking students. I thought if they're going to pay me this much money, that's how much I would have made if I were doing my real estate and I can get to stay at home. So
Yeah.
I took on hundreds of students. I had them lined up. I mean, there was a lot of students that wanted to take my class, and because they were successful, more students wanted. So the students were super successful, and podcasts were just getting started. This was 10, 12 years ago. Podcasts were just getting started, and there was a real estate podcast in Houston, and they had me as a guest because they knew I'd been speaking at a lot of expos and things. And the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? there's all these real estate gurus, but your students just seem to really do well. And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. You know, if they can form success habits, they'll become successful. And then he said, what's the number one success habit? Can you share that with my audience? And I said, well, have them form the habit of reading something positive every single day that leads them toward their goal. And they'll get there a lot faster. And so after that podcast, I thought, that was a great answer. That's the right answer. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were a tool of some kind to help people form the habit of reading every day? And then it hit me. For 50 years, I've been collecting the very best motivational books, poems, quotes, short stories, and long stories. And I have them in my computer. I had at first had them in a journal, now they're in my computer. And I thought, I can put these together and then people can form a habit regardless of their time. If they have 5 minutes, they can read a poem. If they have 30 minutes, they can read a short story. If they have 3 hours, they can read out of one of the books that I have listed in the back. And if they get home at night and they're exhausted and they forgot to read that day, they can read a quote, 3 seconds or four, and go to sleep thinking about something really, really positive. So I started working on it. That was in 2018. And I worked on it every day for 6 years. It took me 6 years. It got published last year. And the name of the book is Real Impact, Daily Inspiration.
Oh,
And
wow.
they,
Congratulations.
well,
You
thank you.
published it.
The reviews on Amazon are just amazing. You know, I have well over 100 reviews and a 5-star rating. People love the book. The stories are really super exciting and motivational, and the poems and the quotes. I mean, it's just, I didn't write the book, I compiled it and I did the research and I put it together. So the stories were great before I put them in there. It had to be a good book. The books were great, motivational. So, you know, I thought people would like it, but they love it. The review, the comments that I'm getting,
Oh, makes me
it's
want to order that.
well, good. Good. Well, the way to get it is you go to realimpactbook.com
Mm-hmm.
and it has buy now. It's got all, it tells all about it. It has games. The realimpactbook.com is a fun website. You're going to enjoy that, and you can win prizes just by playing the little games. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page where it says podcast attendee,
Mm-hmm.
you get the ebook for free, instant
Is that
download,
right?
and there's no strings. You don't get put on a email list or anything unless if you click the link that says there's actually 3 gifts that you get when you go down to podcast attendee for attending your podcast. So I hope everybody will go there. There is an ulterior motive. I want you to see my writing because my other books come out. I want you to buy one of those. And if you read the part that says how to use this book,
Mm-hmm.
the magic formula, you actually have to have the book. The ebook won't work. So if you get it, you're probably,
Okay, okay. But the
and
ebook, is it the full
oh yeah, it's
version
beautiful.
of the book?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
got the pictures. It's got, I mean, it's formatted. It's a really beautiful book. You'll love that you have it. But when you see the book, you're probably going to think, man, this would make a great gift for a graduate or for a wedding party or for a housewarming gift or for holidays or birthdays. I mean, it's a great gift. The hardcover book. Well, I was on a podcast with a publisher who actually published books. He creates books. And I'd sent him a copy because I was going to be on the podcast, and he held it up like this. And he said, Dennis, this is the nicest book I've ever held in my hand. Well, I used to own a printing company, so I knew what the best papers were. You know, it's got the very best binding, the best cover. It's embossed in bronze. I mean, it's a nice, nice book. So you give it to somebody. Let's say you're a grandparent, you want to give your grandchild something for graduation. They'll keep it forever. It'll go on their bookshelf and 50 years after you're dead and gone, they'll still have that book with your whatever you wrote to them. They'll never forget you. It's like the old Bibles. People used to keep Bibles, and so they could remember who their grandparents and great grandparents and so forth were. My aunt gave me a book when I graduated from college in '73, and I still have it in my bookshelf. So I know that they're great legacy gifts. But if you just know someone who's going through a hard time, or they're in sales, or they just need some extra motivation, if you give this to them, it can pull them out, and it can help them. It can help them quickly.
Why the lamp on the book?
I'm glad you asked that.
You're waiting for me to ask that.
Well, the best way to learn about the lamp is to go to realimpactbook.com, and the very first link says The Mystery of the Lamp. And it's an audio recording. It's also written out. But what you'll learn is there's a story on the back about Aladdin. Have you heard the story of Aladdin, the little boy who, or young
Yes.
man?
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
Who found the
Jasmine.
lamp?
Mm-hmm.
And when he was cleaning it, he realized, hey, it's got magic power, and it'll give me anything that I want. So the genie pops out of the lamp and says, Master, you get wishes. What is it you want? Well, that's why the lamp is on the book. Because if he didn't say what he wanted, he never got anything. And a lot of people don't realize they get up, go to work every day, and they think, wow, I'd like to be a real estate investor. I'd like to be an engineer. I'd like to do this or this or this. And their butts get in the way. I'd like to do that, but I don't have the money. But I don't know the people. No, but I don't have the education. They talk themselves out of it. If they know what they want, like when I was in high school and I wanted to be in that drum section, I didn't have the money to go to college. I didn't have the grades. My father wouldn't let me go to college. My teachers laughed when I told them I was going to go to college. It was the chances of me going to college were pretty much zero. But I knew what I wanted, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. And so I overcame all of those. And anybody can. I mean, you have this wonderful mind and body that was designed to let you have pretty much whatever you want. You just have to know what that is. You got to decide, what do I really want, and what am I willing to give to get there? And once you do that, you're 90%. You're 90% there.
Now, you mentioned the first part of the interview that whatever you set your mind onto, you will get them. In Real Impact, in the book itself, you had this very story. So, what could you share a pivotal moment in your life where that was very, very apparent? A change in mindset led to significant personal and professional growth.
Well, we kind of covered it a few minutes ago, where I went to class one day, and I was in high school, and I was looking at the clock in the class thinking 20 more minutes. I was counting the seconds till the bell rung, till I could get out of that terrible class where it had me trapped in school. And I just was miserable. And then the intercom, bam, came on and said, after lunch, we're having assembly. That changed my life. We went to that assembly, the band was there, the drum section played, and when I saw that, the earth moved beneath my feet. I was headed in this direction, and the earth moved, and now I was heading in another direction. From that day until I graduated from high school, I took my books home, I studied, I talked to the teachers, I was good in class. I became one of their favorite students because I did what I had to do to make good grades, because I was going to be in that drum section, and nothing was going to stop me. So I actually did the impossible, and you can too. I mean, that's just one example. In my business life, there's been 100 other examples where things happen just like when Mike gave me that check. He pulled the checkbook out of his pocket and handed it to me, and all of a sudden I started teaching. I hadn't intended to be a mentor. That was not in, I didn't even want to do that. But when he did that, it changed. And when I was a high school band director, I wanted to be a college band director. And Georgia Tech contacted me, Georgia Tech in Atlanta. It's a big school, a big
Mm-hmm.
college. And they said, we want you to come be the band director here. And I thought, oh man, that's wonderful. That's the
It's like the
dream.
stars aligned for you every time.
Well,
Like, what is your secret to that? Is it still reading or is it faith?
well, I have to think of the 7 secrets of success. Okay.
Yes, that is my next question. What
Oh,
are the 7 secrets of success?
secrets of success are, first, you have to get your mind right. You have to know what you want, develop a burning desire to get there. So nothing can stop you. You just want it more than life itself. And third, you have to have faith. You have to believe that it's going to happen. Now, if you put those 3 things together, it's like building a locomotive. What's going to stop you? I mean, it's going to take an awful lot to slow you down and stop you. And unless someone else has a plan to stop you, you're probably not going to be stopped. That's the first thing. The second thing we've been talking about, the second secret of success, is to seek wisdom. Well, what is seeking wisdom? Reading something every day that moves you towards your goal, listening, going to seminars, going to webinars, podcasts. I mean, watching TV programs. Once you decide, let's say a little girl in high school decides, well, I'd love to be a veterinarian. And she gets past I don't have the money, I don't know where to go to school, don't know. If she gets past that, then she's saying, well, I'm going to go visit some veterinarians. I'm going to go find out what colleges teach veterinary medicine. I'm going to find out about scholarships. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And then one day she walks into her practice. So that's, seeking wisdom is, first, you got to do number one. You got to get your mind right and know what you want. And then next, you look for something that's going to move you in that direction every day. And reading will do that. The third of the secrets is to develop skills. In every business or sport or pretty much any venture, there's certain skills that have to be mastered. And people just don't know this. They go through life and just kind of wander around and accidentally learn the skills. Well, you'll skip a lot of steps if you already know what the skills are. If you want to be a basketball player, well, then you got to be able to dribble and pass and shoot and run and play defense. I mean, if you can't dribble, you can't play basketball. You're never going to get on any team. So that's a skill that has to be mastered. Well, in business, finding money is a skill. If you don't know how to find money, or if you don't know how to market, or if you don't know how to find deals, I mean, if you don't know those skills, you're not going to become very successful in business. So you need, whatever it is that you're going to do, find out what the skills are, develop those skills, and people will seek your advice. They'll bring you in because you know the skills. So the next one is to make detailed plans. You wouldn't dare try to build a large building without a set of blueprints. The chance of failure would be way too great. Well, isn't your life more important than a building? Well, of course.
Yes.
So you need to make detailed plans. What is it ultimately that you want? What's it going to take to get there? What are the steps you're going to take? And then what are you going to do when you get there? So in my book, The 7 Secrets, and also in the Laws of Success, Laws of Nature for Success, it goes into this very deeply, but I'm just kind of skimming over. So the 5th skill is to take massive action. One of the books that I first got when I was in business, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. In the back of the book, it has scrolls, and the scrolls are to become habits. If you read the book and read those scrolls, you'll want to make those scrolls a habit, even if you're not in sales. One of the scrolls says that your Your dreams are worthless. Your plans are dust. Nothing matters unless you take action. Today, I will take action. You have to take action, or all of the others just talk. So that's a very important secret of success. Take massive action. And then number 6 is to form great alliances. You have to help people, and people have to help you. Like today, you're helping me by getting the word out about my books, and I'm helping you by being a guest on your podcast. That's a good alliance. We both benefit from it. You benefit from partners, you benefit from teachers, you benefit from mentors, you benefit from customers, suppliers. So you form alliances with people who can help you succeed, and you can give them something in return. It may be money, it may be time, it may be just you mention their name to someone. But great alliances will really move you along much faster. And then the 7th one is, and it's extremely important because if you don't have it, you're probably going to stop. But the 7th one is to be persistent. It simply means this: if you fail, and you will, if you get knocked down, and you will, if you have problems, and everybody has problems, it won't make any difference. When I got to Jacksonville State, I didn't make the drum section the first year. I had to spend a year at Jacksonville State not being in the drum section. I did get in the band. I was playing the trumpet, but that was a big setback. And then the first semester, I failed everything. And I got on scholastic probation, and they said, if you failed everything next semester, we're not letting you come back. So those were problems. Those were knockdowns, but nothing was going to stop me from getting in that section. And if you have that attitude of persistence, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to get up and go again, then your chances of success are like 99%, because everybody's not like that. You be like that. You don't be like the other 99% of the people. You be the 1% that no matter what happens. And in the book, Real Impact Daily Inspiration, the stories in there are about people everybody knows. You know the name Abraham Lincoln? Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you probably didn't realize he had less than a first grade education. He was
He
poor.
had no education. Yes.
Yeah,
And
he was
he's self-taught. He was self-taught as a lawyer, and he became a lawyer.
became the number 2 lawyer in all of the state, in all of Illinois, maybe even
Yes.
number 1. He and his business partner were the best lawyers in the state of Illinois. But when he decided to become an attorney, he didn't have an education. He was broke. He didn't have any money. He barely had clothes to wear. Most of the time he went barefooted. Was just the chances of him becoming an attorney, had to pass the bar, were pretty much zero. And he said, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes to pass the bar, because now I know what I want. I want to become an attorney. And he did it against all odds. He could barely speak the English language. He changed all of that and became the president. So another one is Walt Disney, Sylvester Stallone, Mary Kay Ash. All of these people are extremely famous for their success. But if you read the story of their background, they failed and failed and failed and got knocked down. And you'd think they're not going to get back up this time. Hershey was one, especially. You know, if you've eaten a Hershey bar, had Hershey not gotten up 15 or 20 times, you wouldn't have that Hershey bar, because there wasn't milk chocolate. And he invented it. It wasn't easy to invent. In fact, when he was working on milk chocolate, it took 3 years to come up with a formula that would work. 3 years working day and night. Everybody in his candy factory working to try to create milk chocolate, one that was sellable, one that tasted good, one that was affordable. And so he was an amazing guy. But he failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. And now everybody knows Hershey. If you walk into the store, you're going to see the name.
Yes. Wow. Amazing stories, Dennis. I feel inspired. I feel fired up. Although it is the evening for me, but I believe in the message from every one of my guests that come on my show. So thank you for that, Dennis. So
Well, thank you.
yes, thank you. My next question to you is, what are you working on currently?
I'm working on, well, I just finished a 5-book series on real estate. It's the Real Estate Skills series, and I'm putting up one every month. 2 of them are already up. Let's see, The Royal Flush of Real Estate, How to Get Started Investing in Real Estate. And then the next one is the skills, the 5 M's of real estate, and then where to find the deals and where to find the money. So that's going to be, if you're interested in real estate, start reading those, and then a new one will come out every month. The book I'm working on currently is called The Laws of Nature for Success. Now, you probably know about the law of gravity. Everybody knows about it. If you drop something, it's going to go down 100% of the time. That's a law. That's the way it is. So at one point in my life, a mentor of mine told me, he said, there's these certain laws that determine where you're going to be successful in life. And if you follow those laws, you'll become successful. But if you go against those laws, you're going to have a hard time. Things are not going to go well for you. It's it's going to be a rough life. And I said, well, great. Where's the book? And he said, oh no, it's not written in a single book. It's in a lot of books. It's kind of a life study. And so when I left that office, I thought, he don't know. There's a book that's got the laws of nature for success. I know there is. I looked in hundreds, maybe thousands of libraries. I looked when the internet came out, I searched the internet for articles, for anything that said the laws of nature for success, and it didn't exist. And I thought, well, that's not good. There's other people looking for that. So I made it a goal. And actually, I finished the book. I'm just polishing it right now. And I enjoy reading it.
Wow, and
It's a,
I got to
inter-
know that that book now exists. You haven't published it, right? But at least I'm
it
one of
will
the first to.
it,
It will be published.
out
But
soon.
yes.
If you go to realimpactbook.com and get
Mhm.
the book, it has a link there that says if you click here, we'll let you know when my other books are published.
Okay.
You won't get spam. It'll just say, hey, we just published the Laws of Nature for Success. You click the link here, it's available. I'm writing one called The 7 Secrets. I'm writing Real Impact 2, 3, and 4 because there's just so many motivational stories and quotes and poems that I couldn't put them all in the first book. So I had enough for like 2.5 more books. And the third book, The Real Impact 3, is all spiritual. It's all miracles. It's things that are beyond your imagination. They happen and you can't believe that it really happened, although it really did. So that was, there was a lot of interest in that one. I need to hurry up and finish it because so many people want to read it, and it is amazing.
Well, I guess congratulations are in order for you, Dennis, in advance of those books.
But thank you, Nick.
Okay, we're gonna pivot to a self-worth question, Dennis. And the question for you now, today, in your journey, have you found a connection between spirituality and self-worth? How do you how do spiritual beliefs or practices influence your sense of self?
Actually, I believe that everything is spiritual. I believe the 7 secrets of success are spiritual. I believe that the laws of nature for
I
success
love that.
were put here. If you're walking along the beach and you find a radio and you turn it on and it works, you think, well, that didn't just happen. It didn't just wash up on the beach already working radio. Someone made this radio and someone lost it, or, for some reason, this radio was created by some intelligent being. And anybody that wouldn't think that way, probably not thinking very clearly. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah.
Yes,
So let's
100%.
let's look at a human being. Are they not tens of thousands of times more intricate than a radio. I mean, a radio is just a radio, but a human being is a computer that one DNA, one piece of DNA has more memory than all of the computers, than all of the computers in the United States put together. One little piece of DNA. That little piece of DNA decided what color your eyes were going to be, what color your hair was going to be, if it was going to fall out or if it was not, how tall you're going to be, are you going to be male or female? And the things they're discovering about DNA are pretty amazing. And some of the stories in the spiritual book, number 3, like one of the stories, the great great grandchild of Johann Brahms was not a musician. And he had this tune in his head from the time he was a child. He had this tune, he couldn't get it out. It was 12 notes. And when he was grown, he went to a museum at one time and he was looking. He was not interested in music, know anything about music. He only knew that his name was Brahms, but he knew that his ancestry was in music. And he was in this museum and looking at something, and the curator came up and said, that is an old text. It's an old written piece by Johann Brahms. And I know your name's Brahms, but you're not related. And he said, well, yeah, he's my great grandfather. But anyway, he said, would you like to hear it? And he heard it and he thought, that sounds so familiar. I can't believe this. And so then he told the curator about this thing he had in his head. And he says, well, let me introduce you to an expert. So we introduced him to an expert, and the guys, he told him what the story, and he said, I have these notes in my head. And he said, but I can't even write them down. I don't read music. I don't write music. I can only hum it. He says, well, if you can hum it, I can write it. So he transposed it, he wrote it out, and he thought, well, now that actually does sound like Brahms. Is there any more? So to make a long story short, they did the research, and Brahms had been working on a symphony right before he died and was trying to get it finished before he died. And they found it, and that was the melody of the symphony. And the great great grandson could hum the rest of the melody lines, and they put it together. And he wrote the symphony, and it was called the Forgotten Symphony, and a big Philharmonic Orchestra played it. And when they finished, it was to a standing ovation. So, I mean, the story is a lot more intricate and it's a lot more detailed and it's a lot more fun than what I just told you. But things like that are just, they happen all the time. People a lot of times don't talk about them because
Or they brush it. They may take it as a coincidence or
yeah.
just
So I guess to answer your question, I think everything's spiritual. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant.
thank you. I believe that too. I believe that too. And our meeting is not a coincidence.
That's
Our meeting is exactly. Our meeting is spiritual. There's something that I needed to learn here. And yeah, it is something that I will remember. I now know that there is a book out there, and I now know that there is no book called Laws of Nature. What was it? First Success prior to your book. So
right. Now, there are lots of books
there
about
are lots of books about success.
my book. I reference all of those. I studied all of
Of
those. I put
course. Of
these all
course.
in there, and some of them, bolster the laws. But what's different about mine is it's a set of laws. It's not one law. It's a set of laws. So if you follow these laws in line, you're going to get to your goal 1,000 times faster, and all of nature will work with you to help you get there, which is pretty amazing and pretty powerful.
Brilliant. So Dennis, what is your heart's greatest wish?
Well, my heart's greatest wish is that a lot of people will be helped by my books. I'm hoping that while I'm here, millions of people will learn something great and help them, but I'm hoping when I'm gone, a lot more people will. Napoleon Hill is one of my heroes, and I was listening to one of his speeches the other day. You can still see him and hear him on YouTube. And he was introducing his new book, Think and Grow Rich. which means it was an old recording. And he said, it's
Yeah.
helping millions of people and it will help millions of people after I'm gone. And that was true. You know, Napoleon Hill has probably made more millionaires than any other single person that's ever lived. And he knew it when he was alive. I used to wonder, did Socrates know that years after I'm gone, people would still be quoting me? I wonder if he ever thought that. No, or Da Vinci. Did they know that people would be studying them hundreds of years after they're gone? Well, I don't know, but I know Napoleon Hill knew, and I know that these books that I'm writing, I didn't write them by myself. I had a lot of help. And I don't mean physical people help. I mean help from places that you and I don't understand.
Downloads, to
Right.
put it simply. So Dennis, now this flows nicely into my last question. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Form the habit of reading something positive every day that leads you towards your goal. I think that's very powerful. I think it's life changing. And if people will embrace it and use my book to help them form the habit, it'll change their life. It really will.
Beautiful. How can people reach out to you, Dennis?
Good question. If you go to realimpactbook.com,
Mhm.
it's a great website. It's beautiful. And right at the top, it says contact us. And it has my name, my email address, my phone number. And you can literally pick the phone up and call me if I'm not on a podcast or a speaking engagement or something. I'll talk to you. And if I miss your call you back. Or you can send me an email. You can book me for speaking or for a podcast or for radio. I was a guest on a radio program. And he called me back and he said, how would you like to be my co-host for an entire year? And I said, wonderful. So we're doing a story a week out of
Oh my God.
Henson.
Wow.
I'm
What an
called
exciting gig.
California. So it was a good thing.
So, okay, Dennis, before we wrap up the conversation, any last message for our listeners?
Well, my last message is this. Go to realimpactbook.com. Scroll to the bottom, click on podcast attendee, and get your 3 free gifts. And when you get the book, read some of it and think, is there someone I can give this book to that will help them out of a problem or help them to reach a goal or help them in some way? And that would really be something that wonderful. If you want to make yourself feel better, help someone else feel better. You know, another thing you can do, and this one's free, if you just read a great book, you really loved it, go find it on Amazon or KDP and give it a 5-star rating and say, I love this book because you will have just made the author's day. The author will be thrilled, but you will also have helped a number of other people find a book that they will enjoy or that will help. You know, you will have shared some positive, wonderful information. And you can do that every day or every week or every month. The more times you do that, and when you help people and you're nice and you're doing good things, that comes back 1,000 times. It's just like planting a seed. You don't get 1 seed back, you get 1,000 back. So give it a try. I think you'll find it a positive thing in your life.
Thank you, Dennis, for this wonderful conversation today. That is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Dennis J. Henson. Thank you, Dennis, again for the work that you do and for continuing to uplift the world with your books. Now, for all of our listeners, this has been Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt worthless, remember you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Dennis, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Nieras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Dennis, for your time.
Thank you.
Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.denigneras.holisticlifestyle.com. For more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check on your energetic alignment, I have done that too. And I offer that kind of services. So, my question to you is, are you ready? Because I am. Let's make the most together. Good morning to you, Dennis. How are you doing today?
That's great, Nick. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed. I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners tuning in for the first time and returning subscribers. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about building mindset and habits through reading. Ooh, okay. I was an avid reader growing up, but not so much these days. Perhaps this is the message that I needed to hear today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you, Dennis, to all of our listeners before we can get into our conversation. Hello, everyone. We have Dennis J. Henson here with us, a powerhouse with over 50 years of business success, best-selling author and international speaker. Now, from real estate mogul to mindset mentor, Dennis has helped thousands transform their lives through his books, workshops, and now his latest work, Real Impact Daily Inspiration. In this episode, we uncover his 7 secrets of success and how you too can build the mindset and habits to achieve your greatest potential. Let us dive in. Welcome to the show, Dennis.